Today I'm going to talk about the Melvins Singles Club, which is something that happened in 1996 where Melvins put out one single a month. I believe it was something to do with the fan club where you paid a subscription fee. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on that. In reward for paying your subscription fee, you got a single a month. They were eventually compiled into this CD here, which came out in 1997. So the cover of this and all of the singles is a Totenkopf, which is actually a German symbol of the Hussar Regiment from World War I. They were a Polish regiment and they were used to fight the Soviets during that time. So this does not actually have anything to do with the ideology of World War II from Germany. Anyway, now that we've cleared that up, I'm going to talk about the individual singles that came out. If you're new to my channel, my name is Mark Dutram. I've been a musician, guitarist, composer, and producer for my entire lifetime. And I produced the Melvins' first couple of records, played in the band for about 5 years in the 90s. Also did some touring with Sun and produced a variety of other records for my label Alchemy Records in the 1980s. And I continue working as a solo artist and producing as well. So the number one single that I'm going to talk about that came out in the beginning of the year in 1996 was a cover of the song by the Germs called Lexicon Devil. And I think this song was actually the very first song that was released on the famous Danger House label in Los Angeles, which had X and the Weirdos, a variety of other people making records for them. I did actually see the Germs a couple of times when I lived in Los Angeles in the late 1970s. I might have even gone to their second or third show. I saw the Germs so early that Darby Crash's name was actually Bobby Pin when I saw them, and he had blue hair and was quite the punk rocker. The Germs were extremely amateurish, noise-making, and highly punk rock. They played at a club called The Mask, which was the very first punk rock club in Hollywood that I might talk about at some other point more in depth. I saw quite a few bands play there, possibly the first Go-Go show, Screamers, Controllers, Alley Cats, and quite a few other bands also, amongst other places that they all played in Los Angeles as well. I don't believe that I'm playing on this cover of Lexicon Devil. It sounds like maybe it was made for possible inclusion on the Houdini record by the Melvins, but it's definitely not me playing. And I'm not a huge fan of the song. I think it's covered pretty accurately and probably better than the Germs ever played it. But there it is. That's the side one of the very first single. On the B side, there's something called Pigtro. And this is one of a series of special mixes that were done for the A&R person. His name was Al Smith, for the Melvins at Atlantic Records. And I used to refer to the title of A&R person as that it stood for airports and restaurants, because that's the only place that A&R people could ever be found. Anyway, Al Smith came to A&M Studios where Melvins were making Stoner Witch, and as a special treat for him, we did these special mixes, which were horrendous mixes. And you can kind of tell that Joe Barresi was at the controls making these mixes, because the low end on them is absolutely phenomenal. And Joe is a low end master. And if you crank it up on a good pair of headphones, your bones will start to fall apart from each other from the lowness involved in the mix. Moving on to the second single is a song called In the Rain. It's a song that I co-wrote with Buzz and Dale right in the studio very quickly. And on the very brief liner notes for this, it says, birth of Britpop, ... shit pop. And so the band didn't know anything about Britpop whatsoever other than Oasis being a part of it. And we were just in the studio messing around and wrote this song extremely quickly. I believe it has Dale playing drums. I think it sounds like Buzz playing the bass on this, and then Dale and I are playing the guitars and singing. And I happen to have the lyrics to the song In the Rain right here. I had to listen to it a couple of times to be able to discern exactly what they were, but you're getting it straight from the horse's mouth. Here's to what these lyrics are. And they're kind of silly and sort of influenced by maybe possibly the Spinal Tap song, Listen What the Flower People Say. So here's the lyrics to In the Rain. I don't like you, not a thing about you. There's a flower all around you in the rain. Cabbages and kings and all your pretty things. Things are such a grin in the rain. Tropical decision, it was a mystical incision. Calculus and driven in the rain. It's an innocent type of gyp, greasy jack in the slip, all the way to Memphis in the rain. So there you have the spectacular lyrics to the song In the Rain. I don't think it even has anything to do with Britpop whatsoever. It's more surf sounding to me than anything else, possibly kind of a Jan and Dean type of influence at work in there. So that is the first side of the second single. The second side of the second single is something called Spread Eagle. And this sounds like a mix that was done for Al Smith also, but I think it might have been something done for the Houdini record. Not sure if Al Smith was hooked in at that point. I imagine he might have been, but this is yet another Joe Barresi mix of chaos. So once again, headphones makes this exemplary sounding, and I suggest you listen to it that way. The third single, first side, is a song called Leech, which I think is a very old Melvins song. And it sounds like it might not be me on bass again. And I have a feeling that this song might have been possibly recorded for the Houdini sessions just because of the way that it sounds. Might possibly even be Laurie on the bass just because of the playing and the way that it sounds, but it equally could be Buzz or Dale playing it. My money goes with Laurie. On the second side of the third single is a version of the song Queen, which did in fact end up on Stoner Witch. And this is yet another crazy mix by Joe Barresi for Al Smith. I don't know if Al ever ended up with his own personal cassettes of these, but it's quite possible that he might have. By this time, the joke was running thin, and I think that he knew that he wasn't listening to anything that was going to end up on the record, as he had to report back to the powers that be that everything was going as predicted and we were not wasting money, so to speak. The fourth single, the A side, is called Way of the World, and that is a Flipper cover. Sounds like the same sort of production for the aforementioned Leech record, which makes me think that this was done during the Houdini sessions also. Not sure who's playing bass on this. Once again, I'm thinking it might be Laurie, certainly not Joe Preston. So I'm thinking it probably is Laurie on this as well. I was never a huge fan of Flipper, so I'm probably ill qualified to make any sort of judgment as to whether or not this is a truthful copy, an homage, or some kind of satirical exercise. So on the B side of the fourth single, there's actually a Clown Alley cover, which was my band in the 80s with Lori and Dave Duran and Justin Clayton. We were on Alchemy Records. And the Melvins used to cover this song, which is called Theme. And apparently even Nirvana covered it for a few seconds on one of their records where they're jamming. I can't remember the name of that record. It's kind of a compilation of outtakes and things like that. So good enough to be covered by the Melvins and Nirvana. And it's one of my favorite Clown Alley songs that I wrote with Dave Duran. And I'm even thinking of covering it with the guys that I play with right now. So Melvins covered this for a while with Lori playing in the band. I'm not sure if they did it with Joe or not. And that's pretty much the history of that song in a nutshell. And it's also listed, I think, in Kurt Cobain's diaries somewhere as one of the songs that he likes. So the fifth single, the A side, is called It Shoved, which is a song from the Melvins album Bullhead, which has Lori Black playing on it. And this was recorded somewhere in, I think probably when I'm in the band, because of the way that the bass and drums are playing together. It feels like it's Dale and I playing together. So I know that this song was in a lot of sets that we played. So not sure what the actual provenance of this particular version of this is, but I'm going to say that it's me playing it and it was captured somewhere on tour somehow. The B side of the fifth single is called Forgotten Principles. And this is an original pre-Dale Crover recording with Mike Dillard playing drums and Matt Lukin playing bass. It's a typical punk rock song and really shows the early punk rock roots of the Melvins. And it could sound like a lot of different bands playing it, but you can definitely hear the strong punk rock influence within what they're doing. The sixth single on the A side has a song called Gibby, which I would imagine is some kind of tribute to Gibby in the Butthole Surfers. This song sounds like a Houdini outtake to me just because the drums have that great Joe Barresi drum sound to them, and it sounds like it's done in a good studio. Not me playing bass. It sounds like it's either maybe Buzz or Dale, so really nondescript bass part covering pretty much the guitar part exactly. So I'm thinking it might be Buzz playing it. Don't really have an opinion on this song, and I don't think we ever played it anyplace else. Side B of the sixth single that came out is called Theresa Screams. On the liner notes, it simply says, favorite Melvin song ever. And this was a practical joke played on a friend of Mackie Osborne, who is Buzz's wife. And this was done during the Stoner Witch sessions. Mackie came to the studio and brought her friend Teresa with her. And we had kind of finished doing what we were doing for the day. And we sort of got the idea of having Teresa go in there and do some screaming. And we sort of suggested the idea to her. We said, well, we've got a song and we want a really great kind of horror movie scream on it. Do you think you can do it? And she kind of got excited about it and was looking forward to it. And we said, yeah, you know, you can. We maybe had her do a test scream in the studio, in the control room, and then said, yeah, this will be really wonderful, so you should get out there and do it. So we stuck her out in the live room and put a mic on her, and Buzz's wife was out there with her, and so we could hear the talk back happening. That's part of the charm of the recording, is we can hear Mackie and her friend kind of conversing about the scream and how to make it better, etc. And then Joe Barisi and I are in the control room egging her on and having her do it just a ridiculous amount of times, making excuses that, oh, sorry, we had a technical hitch, and she would try it again, screaming her guts out, and we would go, I don't know if that's right or not, maybe one more time. And so there's even a conversation about one day when she was on the balcony screaming about something to somebody, and Mackie was saying, do you think you can scream like you did on the balcony? And she was going, I don't know if I'm mad enough. And anyway, you can listen to it, and it's quite humorous, and we do have her just go beyond the pale, screaming her little heart out. And in the end, we ended up with a really quality recording that is indicative of some of the fun that we were having in the studio once our business was done. So once again, on headphones, this is quite something, and really captures a moment of levity and kind of humor, and gives insight to some of the things that were happening when we were just simply playing in there. So enjoy Theresa Screams. It might be my favorite Melvin song ever also.